I founded Lucy's Edmonton Advocates Project. And I thought it was time that Lucy had a group of her own. There was a lot of people that already knew about Lucy, but I wanted to bring the focus here in Edmonton because although we gained worldwide support for Lucy, and I've done a lot of traveling to learn about elephants, and everyone knows about Lucy and supports the idea of Lucy going to sanctuary, but here in Edmonton, not so much. So we started this group in an attempt to be educational, not confrontational, and not act like activists, but just to reach out, family-friendly events. And I'll say before I run out of time, we have a demonstration on May 31st, a peaceful demonstration at the Valley Zoo. So if you're able to come, it's from 12 to 3. The more the better.
Yeah, I think probably I'm okay without the mic, and I'll let you guys take the mics. Is okay. Yeah. Probably one of the most immediate things that we're saying about, and you're saying right now that, you know, there's ways for people to still be able to peacefully protest and let your voice be heard, is kind of where we're at right now. Clearly there hasn't been a lot of traction. There hasn't been movement. Is there any movement from maybe Free the Wild or any other organization that has to be able to come and examine Lucy again, or is it pretty much we're at a stalemate where not much has happened since the end of the film?
Well, not much has happened. I mean, we have had 2 other actors to support Lucy going to sanctuary. Alex Baldwin has tweeted, well, it's not tweeting anymore. What is it called?
He's on Threads.
He's on Threads, and
yeah, there you
he
go.
posted the promo for the film on his social media, and Annie McDowell. So we're certainly hoping that more will, we hope to get this film in the States. There's zoos obviously all over the world. But I was inspired to make this film because of Lucy. So I'm certainly hoping that I will finally see her go to sanctuary.
Yeah.
So are there any questions?
Do you want to chat, or are we? It's okay if we're shy. We're okay if you're shy. Right at the back corner.
Just wondering if you could explain what the status currently is of that federal bill that was referenced at the end of the film?
Yeah, the federal bill.
Yeah, I think that we'll be the first country in the world to end elephant in grade 8 captivity. It was supposed to be, it was passed in the Senate, and then when the government was, what is the proper term? Fern Trudeau had to. Yes, so it's expected to pass in the fall. And they wanted to put a lot more wild animals into that bill, such as giraffes and lions and other wild animals, but they got a lot of kickback from the Conservative government, to be quite honest. So, but that's pretty exciting that Canada will be the first country in the world to end the captivity of elephants and great apes, and that just shows, that's an example of showing that our government recognizes how wrong it is.
Unfortunately, though, for Lucy and the elephants existing in African lion safari and in Quebec, they are grandfathered, so they won't be sent to sanctuary, they will remain. But what it means is there will be no more Lucys, and makes me sad to think that she could be a martyr at the end of this, but we're not willing to give up Clay yet.
Yeah. Do you think that the inability to get a bill like that passed sooner, does that, because I can't see how much these institutions really have financial power, since some of them are owned independently, but they're operating on a relatively smallish level, right? Is it the fact that they just don't want to be seen as, I don't know, too progressive about this stuff? Because there seems to be some greater common sense that's that this is acceptable, because it has kind of felt like that for a long time for me growing up, yes, and then finally kind of awakening probably in the last 25 years about what the real issues are about animals like this in captivity. It's become much wider known. Is it more about the ideology? Because I can't imagine it's always about a financial gain or something for them.
You know what? When I made this film, I didn't know. I took my kids to zoos and went dolphin swimming, and I did all of that. And as I said, it's through making films that I became more educated. But there's changes happening, and huge changes happening. When I talk to kids my kids' age, who are in their 30s or younger, they're not going to zoos. They're not going to it. They realize that zoos are nothing more than elaborate, well, not, sometimes not so elaborate prisons for animals, and they don't belong there. They belong in the wild for their sake and for the sake of our ecosystems. So if the zoos don't realize this and begin to change the way they did in Buenos Aires, and I have to tell you, filming that and seeing the innovative ways they teach kids about wild animals, it was really wonderful. And with the narrative that the Eco Park gives the families is that animals belong in the wild. So you have to protect the wild in order to protect these animals. And you know, again, when you go to a zoo, you're not learning anything. I didn't learn anything about elephants until I made this film. So you're giving your kids a false narrative. But the exciting thing is not just the bill, but the fact that things are changing.
You know, before, oh, sorry, go ahead, you go ahead,
Yeah,
and
go
I'll
ahead.
come in after.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to ask, like, is there any, requirements these zoos have in order to have these animals? Like, I haven't been to the Emerson Valley Zoo for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the last time I was there, like, the space for any of the animals there, what is there for these animals? To me, didn't seem good for any of the animals. So I don't understand how these zoos can operate if there's no requirements for them to give these animals a good living space.
The issue is that the laws are not there. Animals, according to the law, are property, and they don't seem to have much more rights than a piece of furniture. This is where you saw in the film the non-human rights project's work is so important, trying to get elephants declared as persons, you know, sentient beings that have feelings and are intelligent. And the laws need to change. That's really where the problem lies. But also here in Edmonton, for example, the Edmonton Valley Zoo is in violation of the Alberta Zoo standards. One of the big issues is that they shouldn't be keeping Lucy alone. They're supposed to be kept in a social grouping of 3. The other issue is safety for the public. The public shouldn't be within, you know, there should be a barrier between the public and the animal to prevent any injuries. Every year, zookeepers get killed by elephants. The public can get injured by elephants. So there's a number of zoo standards, there's 4 actually, that the Valley Zoo is in violation of, and it's up to the Alberta Ministry of Forestry and Agriculture to enforce those zoo standards and deny the Valley Zoo a license, but they don't enforce the standards, so they're no more meaningful than the paper they're written on. And there's the Canadian Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which is a joke, to be quite honest. If you go to their website, half of it's been under construction for 4 years. And what's interesting about that is the City of Edmonton will say, well, the Edmonton Valley Zoo is accredited by the Canadian Associations of Zoos and Aquariums. And then when you look at the board of directors, the last 3 presidents of CAZA were the Edmonton Valley Zoo directors. And they too have the same standard about social groupings being a minimum of 3 elephants, but they get around it because the Valley Zoo brings in an expert every year to say that, oh, Lucy's too sick to move, so therefore we have to violate the social grouping standard because we can't move her. And so she has to be alone. And a doctor signs off a vet, and then they're good to go for another year. So there's lots of loopholes, but there's just not enough teeth in the laws that we have. And that's something that we all need to speak out for. Next year, next year there'll be a civic election, or later this year. I think so. When they come door knocking, tell them how you feel. If you care about issues like Lucy or the Valley Zoo, that's your chance. Speak out, write letters to the provincial government, to the City of Edmonton, and just be more vocal, because that's the only thing that's gonna work.
And just to point out, I hope that you, I made sure that the film pointed out how corrupt the zoo is. You know, there was Oosterhuis, Dr. Oosterhuis, who looked after Lucy, who was the main expert of Lucy for so many years. And there he was with Maggie the elephant. They had 10 experts saying that Maggie could go to sanctuary, and he was the only one who dissented and then said, well, let's get her what did he want?
A treadmill.
A treadmill, because elephants use treadmills. And who did the Valley Zoo get? They got him. And then Maggie went to sanctuary after he said Maggie can't go, she won't make it, and she thrived for 14 years. And again, you know, the Valley Zoo, except for the one time for Free the Wild, all they brought in were these so-called experts that were all connected to zoos and circuses.
And of those 10 experts that said that Maggie should go, and the only one that said she shouldn't, the Valley Zoo didn't pick one of the 10 that said that Maggie should go. They picked the only one that said Maggie shouldn't. So they knew what they were getting when they hired Dr. Oosterhuis.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, congratulations on the film. I'm curious, what was your experience like working with the Valley Zoo? You reached out for comments to film with them, and then also, have they had a chance to watch this, and have they commented?
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, they were certainly invited. I certainly invited every one of them. They wouldn't allow me to film. None of the zoos allowed me to film, except for the Miami Zoo, so I wasn't allowed to film. I wanted to, but we did it anyhow. We have the right as journalists to go undercover, which is what I did. I asked Gary if I could interview him, and he said that the only way I could interview him, but was not directly, was to send in my interview questions and ask, which is not a way to interview, because then you can't, you know, then you can't confront him on things that aren't adding up. So no, I had, except for the Miami Zoo, I had no cooperation from the zoo itself at all. And have they seen the film? Well, the only one that I know who has seen the film is Gary, because he complained to the CBC when I put out a statement in the film saying that the majority of recommendations were not implemented. And he argued and said that they were, but they have not been implemented at the Edmonton Valley Zoo. I mean, you know, for me as a, you know, this is only the second, I've been doing documentaries for 25 years. This is the only second animal documentary I've done. And I've done some really heartbreaking films before, but these animal ones tear my heart out. They really do. What we do to these animals are just horrible. And you know, I cannot believe that they will not let her go to sanctuary. When you take an elephant to sanctuary, they're taken by experts, and they have never lost an elephant by taking them to sanctuary. They prepare them. And I mean, you can see the difference between Maggie before she was into sanctuary and now. So my heart really breaks for Lucy. It's just so wrong. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I have a few things, but with what we know about our elephants needing to be around other elephants, I'm still amazed that Maggie did so well being in sanctuary. She wasn't really around other elephants. I mean, just that helped her so much. I also wanted to say that this isn't just great material, but it really is great filmmaking. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm very grateful. I'm just going to say this. If Marianne and others that were in the film hadn't been working for years to bring attention to these elephants, years, there was no film for me to make. So they get all the credit for that.
But still, because of your skill, it then makes it will reach more people because it's good, really great.
Thank you. I've been doing this a really long time. And again, I'm just going to say I had a fabulous team.
And how are you doing?
Health-wise,
Yeah, you're not hooked up right now.
I've got my oxygen machine. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because the excuse that the Valley Zoo uses is that Lucy has a breathing problem and she can't be transported because she could die. And I've been to Africa, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Sri Lanka with my oxygen. And you know what? I wasn't running to those other countries. Lucy won't be running to a sanctuary. She'll be nice and sedate and not sedated. She doesn't need to be sedated, but she'll be calm and she'll be sedentary. So there's no logical reason for the explanations that they give. And I just wanted to add to your point about these solitary elephants. I volunteer at Elephant Nature Park in Thailand, and some of those elephants have been solitary logging elephants, working out, hauling logs all their lives, and aren't around other elephants. The sanctuaries are absolute pros at integrating solitary elephants into a herd, and they take the cues from the elephant. One example was, I saw one when I was at Elephant Nature Park, and she sat by herself under a tree, and I asked, why is that? She's traumatized. She doesn't want to be near the other elephants. She's afraid of them. So they let her do that. They didn't force the other elephants on her. I came back the next year, and I was shocked. I saw her with a little baby elephant and another adult elephant, and they were inseparable. So it took her that year to get over her trauma and to reach out and have other elephants join the herd. So it's their natural instinct. It might take a week. Some elephants within days will go up to the other elephants. And an interesting thing, when elephants meet each other, they don't meet face to face. They back in. So they introduce their bum to the other elephants first. And that's just a way of, I guess, being not aggressive, showing that they're, submissive to the other elephants. But it's amazing how they bond. And none of the elephants in the sanctuary have ever known each other. They're not part of families, but they're wrapping trunks. They're putting trunks in their ears and, rubbing their backs. And it's the most amazing thing to see. And the worst part about Lucy's life is the fact that she doesn't have companions. There's so many bad things, but that's the worst one.
Horrible, horrible. Yes, sorry, I think I saw.
I saw another hand go up.
I see.
Wondered, 60 years ago, I remember being able to ride a little elephant at
Mhm.
10,000 feet. So this has been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very beginning, I believe they did ride Lucy. She came in 1977. There was a zoo by Borden Park, another zoo. They moved it to the River Valley and possibly there. But riding still takes place in Southeast Asia and some of the other countries, and it's a big money maker for tourism. But again, things are changing. And with the sanctuaries opening up and people understanding what ethical tourism, those are slowly going out of business, and more ethical experiences with elephants are happening now. So where I volunteer, nobody's touching elephants, nobody's feeding elephants, nobody's riding elephants. We just observe the elephants. And we actually sleep right in the park, so you can hear them trumpeting in the morning and rumbling when they're playing, and watch them playing in the river from a distance, and just let them be themselves.
Are there other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondering if any of the other doctors might have seen Maggie, were able to go and see Lucy to get an opinion.
Sorry, can you ask that again?
I heard her. She had wondered if any of the other veterinarians that had opined on Maggie ever got to examine Lucy.
All the experts that they brought in, so-called experts, and I say so-called experts that were brought in to examine Lucy, were all tied to zoos or circuses.
She's talking about Maggie.
No, I know that.
Oh, okay.
I know that. The only ones that ever saw Lucy that was objective was who Free the Wild brought in, Trish London. And you saw her in this film. She transfers elephants to sanctuary all the time. So that's the only time. And we both spoke to Trish London, and she said not only is Lucy able to go to sanctuary and will be fine, but she needs to go, and she needs to go now.
But yeah, none of the other consultants that saw Maggie many years ago examined Lucy. They only allowed in Dr. Oosterhuis, who had said Maggie was too sick to be moved.
So the government is aware of like the animal abuse that's happening, how can that continue? I don't understand.
I don't think they are aware. They don't want to be aware.
Are you talking about, sorry, are you talking about the federal government or the provincial government?
That is like, even if you go
The-
with animals control within the city, if there's an animal that's getting abused, like a dog or a cat,
I'm-
they take it away immediately.
No, not really. No, not really. Before I did this documentary, I did a documentary called Sled Dogs.
Yeah.
And it's about the, we brought up the horrors of the sled dog industry, and what I found out is that the laws that are supposed to protect our dogs don't. And those that are supposed to enforce whatever feeble laws we have don't. It's really quite pathetic. I mean, dogs are also considered your property, and you have the right as a Canadian to shoot your own dog, as long as it's done humanely, apparently. So we have a long, as much as I'm thrilled about the Jane Goodall Act, we have a long way to go. But it starts with us. You know, it really starts with us. And as I said, I did it all until I rescued a sled dog when I went dog sledding and saw what was going on. And I've decided, I made a pledge to myself that I will never do anything to abuse an animal again and think about my entertainment. If I never see another wild animal, I'm fine with that. I don't care. You know, if I want to look at animals, I can watch them on videos or read books about them, but I am not going to do anything. I mean, as I pointed out in the film, we need, you know, it's dire for them to be taken out of the wild. And therefore it's dire for us because they're so important for the ecosystems. So we know better now, and since we know better, we have to do better. So I've really changed.
I think that's why it's important too,
Yeah.
because, and sometimes we would assume that because whether there is, you know, bylaws, laws there to protect it, like what is really being enforced? And I think that's the problem sometimes, that we're a little bit more blind to it. We are getting close to short on time. I did see that you had your hand up there. We'll try to
We'll do
like
it really fast.
power through everybody that we can.
And I'll shut up.
Oh,
Yeah,
No, it's
it's
okay,
okay,
just
it's
keep it
okay.
short.
okay, I'm online. I follow you guys on Facebook and stuff like that. And my question is, I keep reading that people are writing letters to the mayor, sending notes, sending this. Is he responding? Is anybody responding? I don't know if anybody in this crowd is from the city or from the zoo, or whether somebody would even say they would be. But I feel that every time I read that, what is the response? Like phoning the mayor, leaving a
Not to
message?
me. They haven't said, the only thing they've only just accused me. And I'm very careful when I do documentaries. I do a year of research. So no, they have not responded to me at all as
And
of accusing me.
how can a person, whether it's you or me or whatever, how can I get that response from him? Him or council or the Attorney General of Alberta, who oversees all this, who authorized only them to tender one veterinarian? How do vets sit there and know what's going on, turn a blind eye? I feel it's so imperative, and someone online said, you shouldn't be angry. I am angry. I am mad.
I'm
I
angry
am-
too.
When she said she will till her last breath for Lucy, every time for 57 years I've been alive, I've been online, my name's Sherry, and I can't stand it anymore. I have no problem voicing my concern, saying what I feel to these people. It's not nice anymore. It's not kind. Everything is cruel about
I'm
this.
just gonna take that last.
But
Hold on,
I
I'm
wanna
gonna
hear
answer,
what
we're gonna
the mayor
answer
has
that,
to
we're gonna
say.
answer that, but
Yeah.
I'm also aware that someone else was there was gonna ask a question, so maybe we could put them together, because I know we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you partially answered it, but my question was that how do you avoid libels or defamations from such big organizations?
The research is there. I mean, okay, bottom line, don't go to zoos. They are nothing more. Remember, I did a ton of research on this. The only way I'm still making documentaries about 25 years later is that I know my material. Don't go to zoos. And please spread that around. I talk about it all the time. They are nothing more than prisons for animals. Wild animals belong in the wild. For their sake, for the sake of our planet, and for our sake. Bottom line, that's the truth.
He's wondering why you haven't been sued.
Why I haven't been sued?
Probably because you keep telling the truth.
Because I
honest.
couldn't give a shit. If they want to sue me, I'd be very happy about it. I'd get more publicity. They don't have the courage to sue me. They don't want. They don't
It
want.
actually is like, it's more like a lobbying system that's trying to keep the system intact. And
Well, there's there is freedom in this country to expose the truth, freedom of journalism. So that's why I was able to go undercover, and I'm insured.
So
go
back to
for
your
it.
question.
Yeah.
Just for locals here in Edmonton, and you're right, it's frustrating. I've sat 33 times in city council chambers doing sit-ins to get them to try to pay attention to us. My city councilor came to my door before he was a candidate and knocked, and he got to hear an earful about Lucy, but he wanted my vote, so he listened, and he did end up on council, and I'll say his name, Andrew Knack, is a councillor in the West End. He responds to me all the time. Does he do anything about it? Not so much, but he's one of the few that will actually at least respond. So if you have a councillor, everyone has one, if you're in the actual city of Edmonton, reach out to them, ask for a meeting. You have a right as a constituent to have them meet with you. And if you want backup, you can bring a friend, pick me, and I can bring materials and whatever. But I can't get in front of other city councillors in the regions where I don't live. So Andrew and I talk all the time. We've got another one of our admins who's connected with Aaron Paquette, and he's been pretty supportive. So there's a handful of them, but they're not making enough effort, and we need to have more people with talking to their city councillors, because we need 7. We need 7 out of the 13 that sit on the council to pass a motion. So we've got maybe 3, we need more.
I really wish, and we've got our own problems in Toronto because of the African Lion Safari, but we're fighting it to close it down. I just really wish that the people in this city would boycott the zoo until they send her to sanctuary. That's what I really wish would happen.
Because that would hit him in the pocketbook.
That would
and
hit him
that's
in the
what's converting.
pocketbook. No more, we are not gonna go to that zoo until Lucy go to sanctuary. But listen, I mean, a lot of people buy into the lies that the zoos tell us, that they're all about education and conservation. Well, that's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
And that the elephant will die if moved.
Yeah, that's bullshit too. But there's nothing conservation or education about it. It's amazing to me how they get away. I mean, it was great that I was able to film undercover because they didn't know they were being filmed, so they said what they wanted. And how they lie to the public is just unbelievable. There's nothing to do with conservation or education. So, you know, I talk about it all the time. I tell everyone, don't go to zoos, don't support them. It's cruel. And I just hope everybody else will spread the word too.
Well,
Yes, I'm sorry.
we gotta turn over
Yeah.
the theater. Like, I like you guys.
We can talk
But this is not a
outside.
you thing. It's not a you thing. I swear to God. But
Yeah, we
definitely
can talk
Fern and Mary
outside
Ann.
if
Yeah, we can
anyone-
talk outside.
We'll talk in
More
the
than
lobby.
happy to talk about it.
Yeah, we just need to turn over the theater.
Yeah.
But thank you all so
Thank you
much
so much.
for sticking around. It's a great conversation.